Imagine a night market, glowing with colorful tents and filled with people. This bustling square is where we can see the invisible forces of the economy in action. Steve runs an ice cream stand here. When economists talk about Steve's supply, they aren't just talking about the physical tubs of vanilla in his freezer. They are describing Steve's willingness to sell specific amounts of ice cream at different prices over the course of a week. It is essentially his personal business plan. To understand Steve's decisions, we have to imagine the world around him stops moving. We assume weather stays the same, the price of milk doesn't budge, and no new competitors show up. By keeping all other things equal, we can isolate exactly how a change in price alone changes Steve's behavior. When the market price for a cone goes up, Steve is willing to work longer hours and start scooping faster. These higher prices make it easier for him to cover his costs and earn a better profit for his time. If the price is low, he might choose to close early because the effort isn't worth the return. This predictable link, where higher prices lead to more items being offered for sale, is called the law of supply. Ultimately, supply is an active calculation. It's a seller's reaction to the profit they expect to earn. This graph shows how we visualize Steve's business plan on paper. We place the price of the ice cream, labeled P, on the vertical axis. We place the quantity he is willing to sell, labeled Q, on the horizontal axis. Steve's supply curve is the line marked S. Because he wants to produce more as prices rise, that line slopes upward and to the right. A higher price leads us directly to a higher quantity on the bottom axis. Steve isn't the only seller in town. Down the street, Ben has his own cart, and Jerry operates a stand near the park. They each have their own personal supply curves based on their own costs and goals. To understand the entire town's ice cream economy, we calculate the market supply. We do this by picking a price point and adding together the specific number of cones Steve, Ben, and Jerry are each willing to sell at that price. This collective line represents the total reaction of every seller in the market to the current price. What happens to this graph if the townspeople suddenly agree to pay $5 per cone instead of $3, while everything else in the world stays exactly the same? Since the price is higher, Steve works harder to put more ice cream in people's hands. On our graph, we show this by sliding upward along our existing supply curve. The quantity he offers increases because the price increased. If the going price for ice cream falls, Steve's willingness to scoop drops with it. This is a movement sliding back down the same line. He is still using the same business plan, he's just reacting to a lower price. Changing the price of the ice cream itself doesn't change Steve's underlying plan. It simply changes our position on the path we've already mapped out. Now, let's change a factor other than price. Imagine a new machine is invented that churns ice cream in half the time. Because his costs have dropped, Steve's entire plan changes. He can now afford to offer more ice cream even if the price of a cone stays exactly the same. When the real world changes like this, the entire supply curve shifts its position. This chart shows what happens when production becomes easier. If Steve gets cheaper milk, uses better technology, or receives a government subsidy, his supply increases. The original line, S, shifts to the right to become line S1. By shifting to the right, the graph shows that sellers are now willing to supply a greater quantity of ice cream at every single price point. Now look at panel B. This illustrates a decrease in supply. If a storm destroys dairy farms or taxes on sugar go up, making ice cream becomes more expensive. The entire curve shifts to the left. This leftward shift means that at every possible price, Steve and the other sellers will offer fewer cones than they did before. In any market, the secret is knowing what caused the change. If the price tag changed, you simply move along your current path. But if the world changed, you have to draw an entirely new path.